On the wedding day, my biological father who had abandoned me for 20 years suddenly appeared at the scene, and said that he would send me off to marry and give a speech on the stage. Only then did I notice that my stepfather, who had worked hard to raise me, was sitting in the audience and smiling bitterly. I clearly refused, but my mother-in-law pointed at my nose and scolded me, saying that this is your biological father, and he should give a speech. Why make a fuss on a happy day? I directly flipped the table and slapped my fiancé who was watching the show next to me. Whoever wants to get married can get married. Today is my big day. I waited with anticipation and entered the venue with my father's arm around me. I waited and waited, but I didn't see my father. I looked around anxiously, until my mother-in-law stood beside me with another man with a serious face. Yes, this man was Su Guanghua, my biological father who abandoned me for 20 years. Wenxuan, I am your biological father. Your mother-in-law is right. I should give a speech. Hearing his words, I was furious, shook off his arm, and pushed open the door of the banquet hall. The MC was reciting the lines affectionately. Dear guests and friends, at this moment, the father of the bride will take his precious daughter to the wedding hall. Now let's give him a warm applause. He hosted the event smoothly, and stuttered when he saw me enter the venue alone. I slapped Su Guanghua away, tried to hold my hand from behind, walked to the stage, and stood in front of my boyfriend Zhongwen. I asked coldly why you called him here. Didn't we already agree on Zhongwen's matter? He looked a little guilty, and in the whispers of the guests below the stage, he turned into dissatisfaction and embarrassment, and whispered to comfort Wenxuan. After all, Uncle Su is your biological father, and it makes no sense for you to let your stepfather enter the venue to give a speech when he is still alive. My eyes fell on the relatives' seats, and I saw my father's slightly hunched figure sitting among the guests, and my eyes were sore. Zhongwen, my surname is Lin, not Su. A man who has only provided me with a cell since I was born. What qualifications does he have to appear on the stage on the most important day of my life, replacing my father who has raised me for more than 20 years? Zhongwen frowned, and her future mother-in-law Guohongxia, who was standing behind her, couldn't help it. She stepped forward and grabbed my wrist, saying in a tough tone, Wenxuan, it was me who decided to let your father give a speech. Today is a happy day, and it's time for you to be petty. Do you want everyone to poke your back and scold you for being unfilial? Seeing that I didn't say anything, he threatened in a low voice that you and Zhongwen have already obtained the marriage certificate. This life must be completed today. Our Zhang family can't afford a daughter-in-law who doesn't even want her own father. I turned a deaf ear to his accusations and stared straight at Zhongwen, trying to see a trace of guilt or heartache on his face. But I could only clearly see that his face showed disapproval of me, and his tone revealed disappointment and impatience. Wenxuan, you should be more sensible and stop throwing tantrums. Uncle Su is here, and if you make a scene now, no one will look good. His words were like a basin of cold water poured on my face. My eyes slowly swept across the expressions of everyone on the stage, and my expression slowly became cold. Zhongwen and I have been dating for 2 years. He is gentle and filial, and his temperament is gentle, but he knows how I got through my childhood. Have you ever thought about my feelings after doing this today? The tight thread in my mind broke. Under the gaze of the guests, I took a deep breath and signaled the MC to pass the microphone to me. Zhongwen and Guohongxia's brows relaxed slightly, as if they felt that I had given in. Su Guanghua also walked up silently and stood beside me as an elder. The next second, I pulled off my veil and threw it into Zhongwen's arms, slapped him twice, and said to the microphone that this marriage was not going to be concluded. My last name is Lin, not Su. I come from a reconstituted family. Su Guanghua is my biological father. He changed his mind and divorced me when I was less than 1 year old. There has been no news for more than 20 years, and he has not given me even a penny of child support. When I was 4 years old, my mother took me to marry my current father, Lin Changshan. My father is an honest and kind person. He treats me as his own child and never despises me. My mother was not well nourished during the confinement period and was weak and sick for a long time, so she could not raise children again. We spent more than 10 years peacefully and warmly like an ordinary family of 3. But the year I was admitted to a key high school, my sick mother passed away. My family spent almost all their savings to treat my mother's illness, and they will face a high tuition fee. I knelt in front of my mother's grave for a long time, feeling sad and uneasy. I was worried that to my father, I was just a burden brought by his ex-wife. Now that the only bond is gone, will he not want me? After my mother left, I looked at my father carefully, and my hair turned gray overnight. I followed him and dared not say a word, but he seemed to have noticed my thoughts. His rough fingers hastily wiped the tear marks on his face, and gave me a simple and comforting smile, saying, "Don't worry, my daughter, Dad has taken care of it. The construction site in South City is recruiting workers. Dad will move more bricks this summer and save enough for tuition." And he did not live up to his promise. During the 2 hottest months of the summer vacation, I worked part-time in an air-conditioned milk tea shop, while he went out early and came back late every day. Before dawn, he would bring a large bottle of boiled water, 6 steamed buns and a small bag of pickled mustard, and would not come back until dark, sweating all over. His clothes would get wet and dry under the scorching sun, and you could see the white eye cream when they were wet. But he never said he was tired or had a complaint, even if all the relatives came to the door, hinting explicitly or implicitly that as long as he got rid of me, the burden, he would be able to live a much easier life. But he just shook his head and smiled and said firmly, "Wenxuan, you have called me dad for so many years, he is my daughter," and for 2 months in time, my father saved up more than 10,000 yuan for my tuition and living expenses. Because of his honest character and sense of responsibility towards his wife and daughter, it was not that no one introduced him to potential partners. There was even a widow who took the initiative to come to him and ask to live with him, and promised to give him a son. But my father always said that if I married another woman, what would happen to my daughter? Besides, there is no such thing as favoring boys over girls nowadays. I already have a daughter to take care of me in my old age, so what do I need a son for? With his broad shoulders, he has supported my studies for 10 years and bought me a small apartment in the city, a car, and even saved money for my dowry. He always smiled and told me that if others have it, our daughter must have it too. Zhang Wan and I met through a blind date introduced by someone, and he knew the situation of my family. My future in-laws also readily said that my biological father and stepfather were the affairs of the previous generation, and as long as we lived well, we didn't need to care about these things. It was only after they confirmed this that I felt at ease to start my life. I started dating him and started planning the wedding 2 years later. During the rehearsal stage, they also arranged for my father to walk me down the red carpet and give a wedding speech. My father, who was eloquent, had started preparing his wedding speech long ago. I saw him countless times wearing reading glasses, writing something carefully word by word under the lamp, crossing it out when he was not satisfied, and then looking up something in the dictionary when he was clumsily rehearsing. It was at this time that Su Guanghua came to my house and wanted to recognize me. My father smoked and remained silent, and I directly drove him out of the door with a broom. "I only have one father, and you, a scumbag who abandoned your wife and daughter, how dare you show up in front of me?" But my in-laws somehow got the news, and they tried to persuade me to let both fathers attend the wedding at the same time, but I flatly refused. Now they have come up with such an idea of acting first and reporting later, trying to blackmail me into submission with moral blackmail. They have made a wrong calculation. If I, Lin Wenxuan, give in today and cannot live up to my own surname, I will look at the wedding scene was in an uproar, and Zhang Wan, who was stunned by me, said word by word to the guests in the hall, "Dear relatives and friends, thank you for taking the time to attend my and Zhang Wan's wedding. Today's wedding is cancelled. Everyone must be curious about who this man next to me is. His name is Su Guanghua. He is the provider of my biological other half, and the so-called biological father, who has been absent for 25.5 years in my 26-year-old life. It was this man who brought his mistress to my house when my mother was in confinement, mocked him as a slut who could not give birth to a son, and forced him to serve the mistress, causing my mother to suffer from serious confinement illness. She passed away when I became an adult. It was this man who took away all the family property when they divorced, leaving behind my sick mother and me, who was less than 1 year old. There has been no news for so many years, and I don't know whether he is alive or dead, and he hasn't paid even a penny for child support. It was also this man who suddenly came to my house before my wedding to recognize me, and acted like a father, wanting me to buy him a house old age, enjoy the so-called family happiness. I signaled to the lighting technician to shine a beam of light on Su Guanghua, whose face was flushed. "Mr. Su, where do you get the courage to dare to seek a sense of presence again and again at my wedding? Anyone with a conscience can't do it. You disappeared for more than 20 years, and after being rejected for recognition, you appeared at my daughter's wedding again. As for my ex-fiancé's family, when you set the wedding process, did I not make it clear, or did you not have ears? What qualifications do you have to point fingers at my family affairs, decide who will give a speech and who will sit in the audience and dare to threaten me? It's embarrassing to make a fuss. Who are you trying to morally kidnap? You are so empathetic, a scumbag who abandoned his wife and daughter. I have to doubt the family style and teachings of your Zhang family. Today, the man's betrothal gift was 88,000, of which 30,000 was borrowed from me. I have chat records and transfer receipts to make it look good. While everyone is here today, they can serve as witnesses. For this 58,000, please ask Aunt Gua to count in front of everyone. Take it away clearly so as to avoid asking for it later. In addition, today's wedding banquet is hosted by the bride, so please eat and drink well, and we will return the red envelopes from the groom in full. Please also ask my ex-boyfriend to leave with his relatives in a civilized manner." Zhang Wan and my former future parents-in-law both looked unhappy. When I was halfway through my speech, they wanted to pounce on me and grab the microphone, but they were blocked by my father and several brothers from my mother's family. Guo Hongxia was shaking with anger. Lin Wenxuan, you are a man born by your mother. You motherless loser. It's your blessing to marry into my Zhang family. I'm going to ask Zhang Wen to divorce you. I want to see who wants a second married slut. I calmly handed him the microphone and said, Auntie, you can scold me as much as you want. Let all the guests see how noble the upbringing of your Zhang family is. He choked on the dirty words he hadn't finished saying. He wanted to pounce on me and scratch me with a ferocious look, but the heel of my high-heeled shoe hit him on the back of his hand and he cried out in pain. I smiled slightly and said, Don't you brag about yourself all day long? How popular is your son? Even the daughter of a senior leader in your company who has returned from overseas is crying and shouting that she wants to marry him. I just happened to help your son with his wish today. Shouldn't you thank me? Where is Zhang Wen's colleague? Please tell the leader that Zhang Wen's wedding is off. If you want him to be your son-in-law, please hurry up. Otherwise the Zhang family has many sons and girls are eager to marry him. Amid the ridicule in the room, Guo Hongxia's face twitched and she stared at me with bloodshot eyes. She almost fainted. Go and Zhang Wen, with a ferocious face, raised his hand high to slap me, but was also knocked to the ground by a punch from my brother from my mother's family. In the chaos, Zhang Wen's family and Su Guanghua were driven out of the banquet hall in disgrace. The man's relatives also left one after another. Guo Hongxia, with disheveled hair, looked at me resentfully and said, Don't kneel down and beg me to marry me when the time comes. She left angrily, and my father patted my shoulder to comfort me. Daughter, it's okay, Zhang Wen. There is no one sensible person in the family. Marry me. You didn't have a good life in the past, and your dad always supported you. My courageous blood slowly cooled down and my eyes became hot. I couldn't help but cry on his shoulder. On the third day of the wedding farce, Zhang Wen called me and said, Wenxuan, do you know you were wrong? My mom replaced your dad without permission. It was inappropriate, but she had good intentions. Look at the trouble you made later. You have lost all the face from my family. My mom was very angry this time. You should buy some health products and come to apologize to her. Let her do it. The anger has subsided, otherwise she really forced us to divorce. At that time I was looking up travel guides and preparing to take my dad out for a walk in a week. Hearing this, Zhang Wen laughed angrily. What are you kidding? It's your mother who should apologize. Are you free tomorrow? Let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get the divorce certificate. This road is ours and the bridge is ours. It won't hinder you from finding a beautiful, rich woman. Zhang Wen was hesitant to speak, and Guo Hongxia's cursing next to him had already been faintly transmitted through the microphone. This stinky girl is shameless. I really don't believe that he is willing to divorce you. He keeps talking about divorce all the time. Who are you trying to scare? I want to see if he can get married in the future. There are other relatives fanning the flames. He is making such a fuss before he even enters the door. You must deal with him well, otherwise he will rebel in the future. In my opinion, he should kneel down and serve you tea tomorrow and set some rules. I smiled coldly. Zhang Wen will bring the information to the Civil Affairs Bureau at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Whoever is cowardly will be a grandson. The next day, Zhang Wen appeared at the door of the Civil Affairs Bureau on time. He was wearing a white suit and raised his chin to me arrogantly. Lin Wenxuan, I will give you one last chance. Come home with me and apologize to my mother for her forgiveness. We can still avoid divorce and give birth to a son as soon as possible. Our family will not say anything behind each other's backs and can still live a good life. I was too lazy to even roll my eyes. I turned around and shouted to the door. Dad. My dad and several tall and strong brothers from my mother's family came out. Zhang Wen's face turned pale. My dad waved his hand with a sullen face. I am not worthy of your calling me dad. Go get the divorce certificate quickly and don't bother me anymore. Zhang Wen moved his lips, but finally he gave in under the watchful eyes of the three men. He didn't dare to say a word and obediently completed the formalities with me. When I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I held the divorce certificate and smiled at him with relief. Your mother must have been waiting for me to serve tea at home for a long time. Tell him that she won't be able to wait for her in this lifetime. A week later, I asked the company for a month's annual leave and prepared to take my dad out for a trip. When I returned to the community, I saw that the neighbors who usually saw me when I looked up were secretly looking at me with what they thought were secretive eyes, and whispered to each other from time to time. No wonder the child was so nervous. He didn't even want his husband for his father. I thought, when I introduced a remarriage partner to Brother Lin at that time, he was still unwilling. It turned out that at that time, you could only know a person's face but not his heart. There was no blood relationship. After living together for a long time, who knew what would happen? Just a few words reached my ears, and I felt a little uneasy. I grabbed Aunt Chun, who was eating melon seeds across the street, and asked, Aunt, what are you talking about? He avoided my gaze and said, No, nothing. Wenxuan, I have watched you grow up. Even if you are not related to Lao Lin by blood, some things are still not possible. I felt like I was falling into an icy cave. An extremely absurd guess emerged in my mind. While I was stunned, Chen Shun had already broken free from my hand and hurriedly turned around to close the door of his house. At this time I received a message from a friend. Wenxuan, there are rumors about you and your father on the local forum now. Who wants to frame you? Think of a way quickly. I held my breath and opened my phone, only to see countless eye-catching headlines being forwarded. I trembled and clicked on one of the links. It lightly mentioned the past of Su Guanghua abandoning his wife, but instead hinted at the improper relationship between my stepfather and me in the tone of an insider, and the mental journey of Zhang Wen's family as innocent victims. Even at the end of the article, Su Guanghua spoke to me in the image of a tolerant but helpless father, claiming that as long as I was willing to turn back and admit my mistakes to him, he would always acknowledge me as his unfilial daughter. I was so angry that I was shaking all over. Guo Hongxia called me with great pride and said, "Thanks to your kindness, you didn't enter our Zhang family's door and pollute our home. The air in our house was really unlucky." In the following time, a large number of unfamiliar calls came in one after another, and countless abusive text messages also came in one after another. My heart seemed to be blocked by thick cotton, and I was stuffy and couldn't breathe. I clearly realized that I was exposed by the rumor-mongering network. Huge anger and absurdity swept over my body. In the next second, a dark hand took the phone from my hand. Dad looked at me calmly and said in a firm tone, "Daughter, your dad has lived for most of my life and has survived any storm. Dad only knows that what is true cannot be false and what is false cannot be true. Don't be afraid." After a brief confusion, I tried my best to calm down and prepare to fight back out of interest. I once attended law courses in college. The first step in dealing with rumors is to fix evidence. The poster's ID is an anonymous account with almost no useful information left. It's not a big problem. I saved all the content of the original post by recording and taking screenshots, focusing on marking the number of forwarding comments and the harassing phone calls and text messages I encountered and read, and notarized it through an online platform. The second step is to entrust a lawyer to sue the rumor publishing platform, requiring the platform to provide the identity information of the rumor maker and delete the false rumors. However, both prosecution and clarification of rumors take time. Even though I have sent a lawyer's letter to each account that forwarded the rumor, the heat of the incident cannot be calmed down in the short term. I put myself in a good mood and embarked on the journey with my father as planned. At the same time, I also found a private detective and asked him to keep a close eye on Zhang Wen's family and Su Guanghua's every move. More than half a month later, I took my father all the way west. Privately, the private detective also sent me the latest movements of the family, including Guo Hongxia dancing square dance with a group of old sisters, Zhang Wen carrying a briefcase to work every day, Su Guanghua sitting in a tea house drinking tea, chatting and bragging with others, and Guo Hongxia going to the street alone to buy vegetables. With the blessing of a large sum of money, even Su Guanghua's general experience in the past 20 years was clearly investigated by the private detective. I enlarged the picture and carefully observed the details on it. Countless thoughts flashed through my mind and strung together into a vague line. 2 days later, the lawyer told me that the platform provided the registered mobile phone number of the poster. I compared this strange number in the mobile phone address book, and then I spent 50 yuan to find an errand boy and called this number, claiming that his own listed company was promoting and trialing healthcare products for the elderly, and the other party just met the trial conditions. Free products will be mailed to the door soon. He cooperated to register the address, name and other relevant information. The owner of the number was fooled. The young man handed me the phone recording and the registered address information. I saved and uploaded the evidence, and slowly raised the corners of my lips. As expected, it was indeed Guo Hongxia's second account. It seems that it is time to end this trip. After returning home, I sent a message to Zhang Wen, expressing sincerely that I have realized my mistake. Even if we cannot be a family in the future, I hope to have a chance to apologize in person, and strive for Guo Hongxia's forgiveness in the presence of all relatives. Zhang Wen replied quickly. He said in an arrogant tone that since I have realized my mistake, then their Zhang family is also a reasonable family, and naturally understands the principle that it is better to resolve a feud than to create one. He even hinted that it is not that we have no chance to reconcile, and everything depends on my sincerity. I almost vomited, so we decided that I would personally bring my father to apologize in person in 3 days. On that day, I looked at the man's relatives who were watching the show in the yard, and Guo Hongxia's arrogant face, and calmly lowered my eyes. It was so nice. It was not easy to hold back the laughter that was about to overflow from her lips. Guo Hongxia was very stylish. Seeing my father and I come in, she sat on the chair and raised her eyelids and said in a sarcastic tone, "Oh, isn't this the good daughter-in-law that our family can't afford? What's the win today that brings you two father and daughter here?" He emphasized the words father and daughter maliciously. There was a burst of ill-intentioned laughter from the crowd, but I just pretended not to know. With a smile on my lips, I put the cheap healthcare products in front of him, cleared my throat and said, Antigua, I was wrong a while ago. I came to apologize to you today. You are a magnanimous person and you are pregnant. It's not worth it to get hurt by anger. His smug expression froze, and there was a slight whisper from the onlookers. Zhang Fu stared at him straight with a probing expression. Zhang Wen frowned and scolded me, Lin Wenxuan. If you want to apologize, just apologize. What nonsense are you talking about? I raised my voice in grievance and surprise. I'm not talking nonsense. My friend in the hospital told me. Aunt Guo went to the obstetrics and gynecology department for a prenatal checkup a week ago. The baby is already 4 months old. How can such a good thing be hidden? You see, my friend was afraid of recognizing the wrong person, so he took a photo for me. I pulled out dozens of photos from my pocket and deliberately threw them to the crowd. On it was Guo Hongxia sitting in the waiting area of the obstetrics and gynecology department. The whole audience was in an uproar. Countless eyes were looking at Guo Hongxia. Her belly was full of fat under her loose clothes. Zhang Wen looked at Guo Hongxia in disbelief. What Lin Wenxuan said was true. Guo Hongxia's calm look was gone long ago. Her well-maintained face was embarrassed and hideous. What kind of rumor is this scumbag who talks nonsense? I smiled and shrugged. If this is not true, how dare I talk nonsense? If you think I am spreading rumors, you can call the police and go to the hospital. Let's do a blood test to see if you are pregnant with Su Guanghua's son. If not, I, Lin Wenxuan, am willing to kowtow to you 3 times and 9 times to apologize, and compensate you for your reputation loss of 100,000 yuan. Under my firm words, all the aunts and uncles in the Zhang family had golden eyes, and they pricked up their ears and crowded forward to take a big step. Did I hear it wrong? Su Guanghua's child, Lin Wenxuan's biological father. No wonder Hongxia was determined at that time to let Lin Wenxuan recognize his biological father. You are interfering in other people's family affairs and making plans for them. There must be selfish motives. Now that you put it, it seems to make sense. Amid the sobs, I smiled at the pale Guo Hongxia. Aunt Guo, you were right before. Su Guanghua is my biological father after all, although I haven't seen him for more than 20 years and haven't received a penny from him, but I still have to care about how he is doing. Isn't it a coincidence that he is your middle school classmate and first love? Your class teacher at that time remembers it very clearly. He broke up the 2 of you. You cried for 2 months and your eyes were swollen like peaches. Later, Su Guanghua divorced, and they lived happily together for more than 10 years. Unfortunately, he was in middle age, his investment failed, and his mistress ran away with all his money. He came to me with no other choice, and found out that the mother of my ex-fiancé was his old lover from 30 years ago. Isn't it a coincidence? Or you, the new lover, used your own private money to help him. Look, I still have the photos of Su Guanghua accompanying you for prenatal checkups, the photos of you entering and leaving the hotel together, and the photos of Su Guanghua shopping in a maternity and baby store alone. Photos, although Su Guanghua is an incompetent father to me, he has deep feelings for the child in your belly. Now that the old tree has blossomed, he has rekindled his relationship with his first love and has a child in his old age. You have to take care of yourself. If you get angry, Su Guanghua will really have no son to support him in his old age. You said that if I don't come to your house to apologize to you, wouldn't I be a sinner? Guo Hongxia was speechless, and Zhang Wen stood there staggeringly, his father looking dazed. Zhang's father threw down the photo in his hand without saying a word, stood up with a sullen face, grabbed Guo Hongxia's collar and dragged him to the ground, and then slapped him hard. The crowd was in chaos until Guo Hongxia was slapped 4 or 5 times. Some people reacted and shouted to pull Zhang's husband away. Several women helped Guo Hongxia up. Hongxia curled up on the ground and screamed, her face covered with tears and snot. Zhang Wen stood there with a pale face, looking at Guo Hongxia's eyes as if he was looking at a stranger he had never met. Guo Hongxia looked into his eyes and turned away as if she was scalded. She looked away guiltily, but when she saw me, she was filled with deep hatred. I tilted my head and showed him the call record of 120 on my mobile phone. As his face suddenly changed color, I silently made a mouthful of thanks. Guo Hongxia was taken to the hospital by ambulance despite her reluctance. All the relatives of the Zhang family also rushed over. After hearing the doctor's conclusion that she needed to be hospitalized to protect the fetus, the whole audience burst into heated discussion. As soon as Su Guanghua's back appeared, he was now at the door of the emergency room. 20 minutes ago, I sent him a text message using an anonymous phone card. Using Guo Hongxia's tone told him that she had accidentally had a miscarriage and was in the hospital to protect the fetus. Sure enough, he came. After seeing so many family members in the corridor, Su Guanghua hesitated for a moment, lowered the brim of his hat and was about to turn around and leave secretly, but I spotted him with my sharp eyes and raised my voice and said, "Uncle Su, why didn't you come in and leave? Don't you want to see the child in your first love's belly? You were still young at the time and knew how to understand my mother. It would have been fine if you cheated and divorced just after giving birth to the child, but now you are over 50 and Aunt Gua has worked hard. She is over 50 and wants to give birth to a child for you. You should also know how to feel sorry for people. In an instant, countless eyes, both familiar and unfamiliar, were focused on her. Among the onlookers, many people picked up their mobile phones and started filming. Su Guanghua turned his head stiffly, his face twitched, and he showed an awkward smile. You child, what nonsense are you talking about? I smiled but said nothing. Zhang Wen, with red eyes, had already rushed forward and knocked him to the ground, punching him hard one after another. Su Guanghua was caught off guard and fell to the ground. It seemed that there was a crisp sound of broken bones. In the chaos, the security guards of the hospital surrounded them and separated them, and called 110. A group of relatives surrounded Zhang Wen and his son, and began to comfort them, and also laid out the whole story in front of the onlookers. A young man with a keen sense of smell has started live broadcasting and explaining it. I looked at several live broadcast posts that had soared in popularity on the local forum, smiled slightly, and quietly left the hospital amid Su Guanghua's hoarse cries of pain and my roar of, "I'm going to sue you." Zhang Wen's beating of Su Guanghua was irrefutable, and he was detained on the spot. With the instigation of the self-media next, waves of media people ran to the door of Zhang Wen's company in the hospital to interview live. The gossipy women of the Zhang family accepted the benefits of the interviewers and spoke passionately in front of the screen. They even dug out Guo Hongxia's diary from her student days and the token of love sandwiched in the book, and displayed them carefully, which really made the public's carnival reach a peak again. Zhang Wen's company was overwhelmed and fired him. The Zhang family, who was in a desperate situation, had to pay for Su Guanghua's single room, provide him with good food and drink, and pinch their noses to ask Guo Hongxia to apologize to him, hoping that the other party would issue a letter of understanding. Guo Hongxia, who was in the hospital to protect her pregnancy, went into Su Guanghua's ward alone, and the two talked behind closed doors, but they didn't know which reporter had sneaked into Su Guanghua's single room in order to get first-hand information. A hidden pinhole camera was installed in the ward. At 12 o'clock that night, everything the two said and did in the ward was broadcast. In the screen, Guo Hongxia was wearing a hospital gown. Her face had aged more than 5 years in just a few days, but she had to pretend to be a pitiful little white flower. Su Guanghua's leg was in a plaster cast and his broken nose was wrapped in thick gauze. He faced the window without saying a word. Guo Hongxia directly took his hand and put it on her belly, saying, "Brother Hua, touch our child." Su Guanghua's expression eased slightly, and Guo Hongxia struck while the iron was hot, saying, "For the sake of our child, please forgive Zhang Wen." Su Guanghua snorted coldly. "Hongxia, you mean I just swallow this loss? Forget it. You feel sorry for the son you gave birth to with Zhang Lauer." Guo Hongxia was worried. "Brother Hua, we have known each other for so many years, but if you do this to the extreme we will really become enemies." He paused, a trace of shyness appeared on his face. "This is just the opportunity for me to divorce Zhang Lauer, and we can be together openly in the future." Impatience and disgust flashed across Su Guanghua's face, but he quickly suppressed it and replaced it with an affectionate look. "Okay, I will compensate you 100,000, and you can get more money when you divorce. Also, you have to take away Zhang Lauer's house in the city. Now his only son is still in my control, and I'm afraid he won't agree." Guo Hongxia hesitated. "This is not good. The house is for Zhang Wen as a wedding house. It's just because I'm afraid that my wife will divide it in the future, so the property has not been transferred to him." Su Guanghua said gently. "This silly girl, so many you are still so soft-hearted after so many years. Even if you don't think about yourself, you have to think about the child in your belly. Zhang Wen is an adult with hands and feet. He can earn any money by himself. We are different. Are we really going to wait for the birth of a child and then eat up all the savings?" Under the tender brainwashing of Su Guanghua, Guo Hongxia quickly agreed. He was really upset and cursed me with gritted teeth. It was all Lin Wenxuan's fault. If he hadn't fanned the flames behind the scenes, we wouldn't be so passive. Su Guanghua was a bit careless. Didn't he ask someone to spread rumors about that girl a while ago? But I think that girl is stubborn and thick-skinned. How to deal with her, we have to think of more ways in the future. Guo Hongxia scolded me dirty, but Su Guanghua's mind was no longer here. Finally, because of Su Guanghua and Guo Hongxia's talk, the details revealed in the words also dispelled the rumors against me. My father and I received sympathy and apologies from countless people. My neighbor Aunt Chan even held my hand and cursed Guo Hongxia and Su Guanghua for being conscienceless. Many people were indignant and suggested that I call the police and let the instigators pay the price. I browsed the increasingly complete chain of evidence on the computer, smiling and comforting them. It was not the time yet. Guo Hongxia still had a golden medal of immunity from death in her belly. Now all the buried mines have exploded, and there is only one left. I will wait and see. On the other side, Zhang Fu's eyes turned red with hatred after seeing the calculations of the person next to him. He simply threw the phone at Guo Hongxia's face and told her that she could either take the divorce certificate and leave the house, or he would risk Zhang Wen's future and tie her up at home. Anyway, that evil creature would live forever. The next child would be an illegitimate child. Even if it died due to some trouble, it would not affect him at all. Guo Hongxia was afraid. A month later, Guo Hongxia got a divorce certificate amid countless people's scolding, and then she shamelessly got a marriage certificate with Su Guanghua. The only thing they got was 50,000 yuan in compensation. Outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, the two were thrown rotten eggs and cabbage by countless passers-by. Zhang Wen was also released after receiving a letter of understanding. He was so thin and gloomy that he seemed like a different person. Before the two of them could wait for a happy married life, I sent the evidence of Su Guanghua fooling around and going in and out of massage parlors to Guo Hongxia anonymously. There were many heart-wrenching words in the letter. That woman was just a bargain hunter. Don't you see what he looks like? I was just playing with him 30 years ago. Can I still see him 30 years later? After having sex with him, Guo Hongxia went completely crazy. The two had a big quarrel in the rented house. They smashed everything that could be smashed, from inside the house to outside, and made a big splash. Su Guanghua was scratched all over his face. He pushed Guo Hongxia to the ground, spat at him fiercely, and left without looking back. Guo Hongxia waited alone in the house for 7 days, but he didn't come back. Just like he abandoned my mother more than 20 years ago, Su Guanghua once again took away all the property and abandoned his so-called lover. Guo Hongxia aborted the child. She returned to the door of the Zhang family in a daze and sat quietly, pretending to be pitiful and crying, hoping that the Zhang father and son would accept him again. However, he had long been deserted by his friends and relatives, lost his job, and was schemed against by his mother for the wedding house. Zhang Wen regarded him as an enemy. He acted pitifully everywhere, but his true face was now known to everyone and no one would sympathize with him. He and the Zhang family father and son became a complete joke, and I took the evidence I had compiled before and the record of the conversation between the two people in the video, and formally called the police, and demanded that Guo Hongxia publicly apologize through newspapers, recorded videos, etc., and compensate for economic losses of 30,000 yuan. Because the evidence was conclusive, Guo Hongxia was found guilty of defamation, and was eventually sentenced to 1.5 years. I took my savings from work, quit my job, sold the house, and took my father to settle in a city where it was warm in winter and cool in summer. I became a freelancer, and every year I would take 2 months off to travel around with my father. News about the Zhang family still came to my ears through my old friends. Because of the scandal, Zhang Wen's reputation in the local area was completely ruined. He couldn't find a good job, and no daughter of a good family was willing to marry him. After wasting time until he was in his 30s, he had to marry a second wife from another place, a Voldemort wife, and his life was in turmoil. After Guo Hongxia was released from prison, she even got together with Su Guanghua, who came back to find him. Su Guanghua became addicted to drugs, and his life was very difficult. He had to come back to find his former lover who was devoted to him, and Guo Hongxia actually accepted him. However, late at night a week later, he took advantage of Su Guanghua's deep sleep and smashed her with a rolling pin. Guo Hongxia will spend the rest of her life in prison for intentional homicide. And I exited the mobile page indifferently, took a deep breath at the flowers blooming in the yard outside the window. My father was on the other side of the yard, tending the vegetables he planted, with wrinkles on his face stretched and brisk. The breeze in August was not dry, and the sun was just right. I will also live my own life well. The whole text is over.